Alright guys, we're here today. We're going to talk about the math behind buying and selling, and also we're going to take a look at the charts shortly after. I'm going to try to rush through this as much as possible. So if you have a share price at 10 cents a share, and it changes 1 cent at a time, it's a fairly safe bet that it's going to change a cent or two, probably 2 or 3 really, if you're on a really good day. A dollar price would have to raise a dime in order to match the lower buy-in. Same to be said for $10, it would have to move $1, and $100 would have to move $10 to equal the same payout as a 1 cent move from a 10 cent buy-in. Now, you do have to buy more shares. So if you're buying a ridiculous amount of shares in order to make an incredible profit, you may not be able to sell all of those shares, and you may be stuck with a loss overall. Keep that in mind. This is why we have higher prices with fewer numbers of shares that we have to sell. Moving on to a quick mock-up, and you should never expect this kind of return. This is like once in a lifetime chance. But say Shibu would happen to drop to 0.00001234. I would obviously buy in at that point and be like, I'm going to risk it. Buy-in price of $12.34 if you want to take the cheap route. If it bounced back up to the sale price of 0.000024, which I feel is a little strong, maybe 0.00023 would be better, but 24 is a strong selling point on a couple lucky days here and there, which would give you $11.66 profit for a total cost to you of $12.34. Now, if you were going crazy, you put $1,234 into it, you could make $1,166 of profit, which basically means if you bought a $1,200 stock price share, it would have to move $1,100 to equal that trade. And although $1,200 stock price could vary $5 or $10 at a time, you have to do the math, figure out your buy-in and your payout, and figure out which one will move the most overall for total profit. Now this one you cannot do on Robinhood, so I'm going to spend very little time with it. If you buy in at 80 cents and you can do bracket sales, some places may call it different things. I don't know the different names for it. But say if the stock raised up to $1 and you want to let it grow some more, you can do a bracket sale and be like, if it drops down to 0.90, go ahead and sell it and take my profits. If it doesn't drop down to 0.90 and it goes back up past 110 to my selling goal, it would then trigger that sale. And switching over to Robinhood. Today has been a very good day. It seems like Mondays is always a good return. Fingers crossed it stays that way. Because I did have a decent hit earlier. I was up 23, and I think I was total up either $9 or $11 after that hit. But how am I looking at these charts when I buy in? Salji is not a good example. I'll go ahead and say that now. Because looking at the 3-month chart, this thing has started on May 2nd, and it took a quick increase. Now, I originally bought in 2 shares. I was going to let it sit and hold. But where is my Salji? There it is. Oh, it hasn't sold yet. Okay. So I was going to let it sit and hold. I thought it had sold already. But I put a limit to sell on it, $23.68, which it currently is. It is still fairly new, so not a lot of people are buying. But if they do, I'll have a $1.66 total profit on this share from the last few days. So maybe one what was one of the better ones I had? I can show you the chart for. Order to sell. Yeah, fuel cell was a good one. So fuel cell, I didn't have a whole lot of money on in order to buy in, but I had enough to buy 8 shares, and it was low enough for me to go ahead and do it. I was going to sell it earlier. I decided to stop and hold on to it, and I'm glad I did, because it raised up from 85 cents to 97, and my selling goal was 91 cents. With that being said, I can click into it from here. So 1 week, I bought in at 83 cents, which was roughly in this area. Looks like I got it at a really good deal. And then when it bounced back up, I could have sold it June 10th if stock market was able to trade on the weekend, I believe. Oh no, that is today. So I woke up too late in order to sell it. That's a little shame. But either way, I'm still happy with my profit that I had there. And what I looked at when I was wanting to buy it is I've seen all this different bounce back over the 3 months. You got 69, then 78, then 84, and then 86. So basically, I'm saying if it's on a downtrend, if it's up here, I'm thinking, oh, it might be time to buy because the last big downtrend, it had a big turnaround. But when we take it out farther, let's see, that would be, that would be like right around here. So if we take it back farther, we can see we're on a downtrend and we may want to wait. Now, obviously, I did buy in at a little bit of a risky time. And especially since this is not meeting listings, it can disappear at any time, which is why I took my quick short profits while I could. But let's see if we can find one out of my list. 10 shares at $5.25. I bought in at $5.16. I'm up 90 cents so far. It's not a bad return for the morning. And how I decided I want that this morning is this little spike here that it's dropped down from. Basically, that means I could make a crazy profit going up to $6.25 per share. That's a whole nother $1 on top of what it's already went up. That would be an incredible turnaround. Fingers crossed for it. But in all reality, I bought it because down here is like $5.10, $5.20, and $5.30. That seemed to be like a decent average low. And even like here, it's $5.02, $5.05. So I did buy a little bit on the high end. If you wanted to set a notification for when it drops down below $5, that would be a very good way to go about it. And then when it would jump up to $6.75 for every share, you would gain $1.75. Let us pick a different one. I wish I had more shares of some of these. But with a $9.83 buy-in, I bought 2 shares. We are up to $9.93 with a 20-cent profit. And looking at the 3-month range, this should be an obvious reason why I wanted to buy. With a $9.83 buy-in, I was right down here near the bottom of the spike, and between several jumps, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5, 6, or 7 in the last 3 months. Looking back at it, even for this month, we look like it could have a strong comeback to 1077, which I'll be glad to take that profit. Even if it was to go down or come back up to as little as 1060, I would be happy with that profit. I'd even cash this out tomorrow morning if it stayed the same, just so I could take another buy and trade for something that might be lower. And we will take one quick look at their daily movers. This can be risky because there is a minimum price, I think like $5. Oh, there's one that's lower right now. But let's say we bought into a red one here, Purion Network. Elevated issues we're not even going to bother with. Novavax, there we are. So for the day view, it looks like buy. $15.94 could easily pop up to $17 selling range. $18 if you really want to stick with it and hold. But let's take this out to the week, month, and year, and so on to see how we feel about it. So, still, at the end of a drop, looking pretty good. Still some concern that it might be a dying one. And looking at the month, overall, it does look like there is an overall increase of the minimums. And that, although is good, is also concerning. So it went up from 433 in May. So just this last month or so, it has tripled in price. Kudos to anyone who found that one before it went up. And so even though that was looking like a very, very promising stock to buy, I would not buy this. I'm sitting there thinking it's going to drop back down even if it's to the $10 range. How many months or years is going to pass before it comes back? And when it Novavax, let's say you put a $5 notification on there. Oops. They got some great bounce back, actually. I mean, I am definitely interested in buying, but just not at this time. So I'm going to set a price alert for, we're going to call it $5 or $6, maybe even $7. Let's do $7. We'll cut into some profits to help get an earlier buy, hopefully. So I'm going to do 701 because I'm not sure if it notifies you at 701 or after it drops below 701. So either way, I want to be notified at $7. If it's 701, I'm not going to cry. That being said, this is a high risk. For the 5 years, that would be an insane profit. But just like over here, I mean, if you were buying in at 103 and you saw it jump to 289, like if you sold it up there and then rebought in at 148, held it for another $200 payout, you would be waiting quite some time for any kind of return, or you would just have to cut your losses. So although this one is high risk, I do feel like it has staying power as long as you buy low enough. With that being said, I'm going to stop rambling. My videos don't get watched very long anyway. So with that, we're going to leave it as is, and